ball, dress code, you're gonna get shot. Black people, you got braids out, long hair, you're gonna get shot too. That's the way it is.
69th Street and Hooper.
Nah, no, not right now. I can't see it stopping until everyone's dead.
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we are tapping into one of the most deadliest gang wars ever in California. The East Coast Crips versus Florencia 13. In 2007, a gangland feud in the Florence Firestone District of Los Angeles gained national attention for its brutality and racial overtones. This was one of the region's worst gang conflicts since the early 1990s, and its impact on the community was devastating. Over several years, dozens of people were killed, many of them innocent bystanders, as the predominantly African-American East Coast Crips and the predominantly Latino Florencia 13 battled for territory and supremacy. What began as a drug trade rivalry spiraled into a vicious cycle of retaliation that some residents describe bluntly as a race war between Black and Latino gang members. The East Coast Crips are a collective of Crip gang sets on Los Angeles' east side, with the history tracing back to the 1970s. They are part of the Crips Alliance founded by Raymond Washington, and over time, East Coast came to denote several allied Crip sets, such as the 6-pack East Coast Crips, 76 East Coast Crips, and 89 East Coast Crips in South Central LA. These gangs are primarily African American and grew during the 1980s crack epidemic and gang expansion. By the 2000s, East Coast Crip cliques were active in the Florence Firestone area, often just called Florence by locals, historically a Black neighborhood. However, demographic shifts dramatically changed Florence Firestone. Over the 1980s and 1990s, Latino residents became the majority, creating overlap of Black and brown communities in the same turf. East Coast Crip sets that once dominated the area saw their influence challenged as Latino gangs grew in. Despite racial differences, older gang members recall that in the early 1990s, Crips and Latino gangs mostly ignored each other, focusing on rivalries within their own ethnic group. We grew up with them. It's hard to just start killing someone because he's Black, one veteran F-13 member said of the East Coast Crips, noting that for years there was no serious beef between them. But all that changed in the late 1990s and early 2000s as external forces pushed these gangs into direct conflict. Florencia 13, also known as Florence 13 or F-13, is an old and large Mexican-American street gang based in the Florence area of South Los Angeles. The gang's roots go back to at least the 1960s, and possibly earlier. Some sources say it originated post-World War II in the late 1940s. The name comes from Florence Avenue, a major street in their territory, and the number 13 signifies allegiance to the Mexican Mafia, La M, a powerful prison gang. In fact, Florencia 13 has long been closely tied to the Mexican Mafia. Many early Mexican Mafia members were recruited out of Florencia, and F-13 proudly carries the 13 to denote that connection. By the 2000s, F-13 had become one of LA's largest gangs, estimated 2,000 plus members, with cliques throughout South LA and even out-of-state offshoots. They financed themselves primarily through drug trafficking and had a reputation for ferocity. F-13 built an image of being especially ruthless and treacherous fighters. Florencia 13 historically had bitter feuds with other Latino gangs like the 38th Street Gang, but by the late 90s they were compelled by the Mexican Mafia to make peace with Latino rivals. According to the streets, the feud kicked off when the East Coast Crips decided to rob Florencia 13 of drugs.
Starts off with drugs, it was getting short on our connections. So we decided to go rob these people and get some dope. And that's what it really jumped off at.
Word spread that the Mexican Mafia had issued a green light on East Coast Crips, essentially a standing order sanctioning any Hispanic gang member to attack or kill any ECC member on site.
Informants tell Fox 11 News the Mexican Mafia is now pressing all Florencia cliques to seek revenge for the stolen drugs.
By 2004, Arturo Castellanos, the Mexican Mafia member who controlled F-13 from a Pelican Bay prison cell, was explicitly ordering his street soldiers to begin cleansing Florence Firestone of Black gangsters, notably the East Coast Crips. Multiple Florencia insiders later testified that Castellanos' letters from prison in 2004 had triggered a wave of violence unlike anything the area had seen.
23-year-old Brian Thomas pulls his car into a neighborhood liquor store to buy a pack of cigarettes. Detectives say Thomas is a good kid who works as a UPS driver and goes to night school. But he's about to die. Riding in the passenger seat is a casual friend from the neighborhood, 24-year-old Lewis Mobley. Mobley, a parolee well known on the streets as Kane, is a member of the East Coast Crips. Investigators believe this unidentified killer, probably here selling drugs in the parking lot, is from a rival gang called Florencia 13. He slowly walks off to pick up a hidden gun. Coming back out of the store is about to be one of them. The Florencia gangster, now armed, steps out of the darkness and rocks the car with bullets. Thomas drags himself into the liquor store and dies. Kane Mobley tries to run, but drops dead here in the parking lot.
Florencia 13 wasn't the only instigator. East Coast Crips also contributed to rising tensions.
This teenage East Coast Crip says that's the way it is.
They been killing our soldiers, we've been killing their soldiers, cuz whatever go down, but hey, that's how life goes.
Leonardo Valdivia were best friends out for a night in the town. It would be their last. Their car was shot up on the way home. Both died at the scene.
The victims were not gang members. They're actually very good citizens, own business. In my opinion, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Detectives believe a brown pride sticker on the windshield drew the attention of two East Coast Crips depicted in these composite sketches.
It's important to note that not everyone accepted the label of a one-sided racial purge. Some Florencia 13 members insisted the conflict was 50-50, that both sides were equally at fault and that the 13 wasn't out to kill every black person. Florencia gang member named Robert Ramirez told a reporter in 2007, "I'm not going to say we're angels, but any black shoot on sight. It's not true. Nobody likes a racist person." He implied that Florencia's beef was with the East Coast Crips gang specifically, and those seen as helping them, not all African Americans. From 2004 through 2007, the Florence Firestone area saw an eruption of shootings and murders as the East Coast and the 13 war raged. One of the first high-profile attacks, Florencia 13 members went on the hunt in East Coast Crip territory. For 13 gangsters, Emmanuel Romero, the driver, and Mario Spy Marino, the gunman, rode into a liquor store parking lot near 89th Street, deep in 89 East Coast Crips turf. Marino opened fire with a rifle, shooting two black men who were simply standing outside talking. Daryl Denard was killed, and Robert King, 38, was seriously wounded. Neither victim had any gang affiliation. Romero and Marino were later convicted. The year 2005 was especially deadly. In an 18-month span, January 2004 through June 2005, overlapping this period, gang shootings left over 40 people dead and 200 wounded. In mid-2005, the LA County Sheriff's Department launched a major task force to stem the bloodshed. From April to December 2005, the task force made 230 felony arrests and seized 130 guns in the area. They specifically targeted the Warren gang members, and by the end of 2005, over 50 gang members, Florencia 13 and East Coast, were charged with murder, attempted murder, or ADW. In October 2007, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced sweeping indictments targeting Florencia 13's leadership and soldiers. This was part of a multi-agency initiative codenamed Operation Joker's Wild. Federal and local law enforcement has spent over a year building a racketeering RICO case against Florencia 13, aiming to dismantle the gang's infrastructure, which they blame for the race-driven violence. 102 members and associates of Florencia 13 were indicted by a federal grand jury. F-13 had become a major drug wholesaler in the area, controlling meth and crack cocaine sales in Florence Firestone. This meant that the gang war wasn't just mindless race hatred, it was also about money and power. For the East Coast Crips, there was no equivalent large federal case. but many ECC members had been caught in state prosecutions for individual shootings. There had been whispers and rumors of a possible truce between the East Coast Crips and F-13 in late 2010s. But things would heat up again on August 14, 2019, when two innocent Hispanic men would be gunned down by East Coast Crips, a male suspect and a female suspect by the name of Shanice Dyer, who was 17 at the time of the murder.
Ramon Flores showed us some gifts meant to honor his son, 24-year-old Jose Flores, who wanted to work at NASA after he finished his PhD in physics and astronomy at UCI. But those plans were cut short when Flores was killed in a drive-by shooting last week, along with his childhood friend, 24-year-old Alfredo Carrera. Flores told us he's happy a suspect has been arrested because he knows sometimes these cases don't get solved. He said it's not going to bring his son back, but his family will get some justice. Sheriff's investigators say they pulled over this blue Nissan Maxima Friday morning and arrested 27-year-old Jonathan Charles Johnson. They say the same car was captured on surveillance video near the crime scene in Florence.
17-year-old Shanice Dyer, a member of the East Coast Crips, was charged with premeditated murder by District Attorney Jackie Lacey.
After this murder, just 8 days later, a East Coast Crip by the name of Raloris Gordon Jr., aka X-Ray, was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. It's believed this was a retaliation hit. But in the fall of 2019, Mexican Mafia member Babo Castellanos engineered and proposed a truce with the East Coast Crips.
It came about because the homie Babo is in prison, and what Babo said was, he wanted a truce, and stop this mess, because Babo, he's seen it just like I seen it. You feel me? Babo been down since he was 19.
Where's he from?
F-13. And Babo was like, man, this gotta stop. I started going through the hood, getting at all the homies about how they feel about it, because I got, Babo, his word is good.
A lot more peace going on between places that would not see eye to eye for the life of me, bro. There's a lot more positivity in that, and I feel a lot of lives being saved because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people are alive right now because of that, and it's a blessing to see that, to see my people be able to communicate with other gangs that we had no love for, no likes, no nothing. It was just all pure hate. You know what I mean? And now I feel like we're progressing and being the bigger man and looking at the situation like, okay, hey, we're all men. Like, why continue this? You know what I mean? Let's make something better for the kids that are growing up and going to school, and the kids that are that's the future. Kids are the future. So why do we want this to continue and see our kids die?